Now, I don't know about you, but when I picture this story, I watch with my wife International House Hunters. And I've looked at these homes. Cool. I mean, they're tile roofs. Have you ever seen some of these roofs? Do you understand what these guys went through to lower? First of all, imagine getting a spot big enough to lower a guy on a bed down into the room.
Even before that, imagine getting a guy on a mat up to a roof.
Up to a roof, yes. Well, that's a good point. But I want you to picture this. Now, Jesus is the Son of God who's all-knowing. He knows this is coming. Okay, you're with me on this one. He's in the room. He's preaching. He's teaching. The place is packed. And there's guys jackhammering the roof. Because these tile roofs are built in layers. Yes, there's beams. There's beams. There's mud. There's these like grassy, matty things. There's stones. And then there's this stuff. They had to take this roof apart to get him down in there. Wow. Do you think for a moment, there's no mention here, do you think for a moment there were people there that were a little put off by this? Have you thought about that? I have. I don't know about you, but if I was hosting Jesus Christ in my house and we're having a house party and somebody is up jackhammering my roof, I'm going to wander out and want to say, dude, what are you doing? You know, there was a couple wealthy Jewish community leaders saying, hey, you don't have a permit for that. I want you to think about the magnitude, the length these guys went to for their buddy. What kind of a relationship do they have to do this? Here's Jesus preaching inside someone's house. It's packed inside and out with people longing to hear him. Now our attention is directed to this other group. I like what in the book. I'm a fan of Dr. J. Vernon McGee. I love his southern charm and humor. I don't have his voice, you know, but I want you to imagine a southern man with that funny Mississippi accent saying this. I'm just going to read it out of the book. It's cool. This is Dr. McGee in reference to this passage out of his commentary. Now, I found in church work today that the thing that is done more than anything else to do is to designate committees. Now, the committee is what a pastor of the church often depends upon. In committee work today, it is in church work today, it is largely done by committees of various organizations. Someone has said that a committee is made up of those who take down the minutes and waste hours. Another has said that a committee is made up of a group of people who individually can do nothing, but together they can decide that nothing can be done. And that is generally what they do. If they did what we would like to, this little group had a committee. They had a door committee who came up and looked around and went back and said, you can't get in the door. Then they had a window committee that went up and looked around and came back and said, you can't get in the window. Fortunately, they had a roof committee, and the roof committee came back and said, I think we can get them down through the roof. So maybe you'll have enough committees, then one day one will function. Anyway, they decided to let them down through the roof, and these men tackled the job of taking the roof off. Then he came down to the roof into the presence of Jesus Christ. I think they are embarrassed because they see they have broken up the meeting. Can you imagine what for the meeting in progress? They have no notion what the Lord is teaching on this occasion, but all of a sudden, there was a halt. But the Lord must have looked at the man and smiled, almost as sure as he did. Love at last sight requires the word risk. And that's what we're going to look at today. For you and I to have real relationships, we have to risk. The R stands for the following: reaching out to others. To experience love at last sight, I have to risk awkwardness of reaching out to others. I can't wait for them to reach out to me. That's a risk, but it's worth it because it demonstrates how much I care for them, how much I value them and love them. This poor, crippled man would have remained lost and crippled had it not been for his 4 friends who took the risk to reach out to him to take him to Jesus. They didn't sit around thinking about, it would be great if a friend could go to Jesus somehow and bring him to the house. Too bad the poor fellow can't walk. Who needs friends like that? You probably have friends like that too. They're not really friends, by the way, that will come up to you after the fact and say, you shoulda, coulda, woulda. No, these friends were proactive. They reached out, they got in this guy's face and said, dude, we're taking you to Jesus. We will find a way. And that's what these 4 men did for their friend. In verse 2, it says this: while Jesus was preaching God's word to them, the 4 men arrived, carrying the paralyzed man on a mat. You see, in Galatians 6:2, it says, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will find the fulfillment of the law. Think about it for a moment. Whose burden have you lightened? Who did you intervene upon? Is there someone that you know is bearing a heavy load right now? Maybe it's emotionally, maybe it's financially, maybe it's physical, maybe it's school, maybe it's health-related issues. They don't really know what to do and they feel completely paralyzed. Had it not been for this guy's friends, he would have never made it to Christ. You see, love at last sight says, I want to lift the load that you're trying to carry so that we can both experience the miracle of Christ in our lives. This is all part of the rhythm of life. Real relationships require this interaction. It requires, as we said so far in the series, I've got to be all there for the people I love. Now, I'm not talking about all the acquaintances you will ever have. We're not talking about the 630 people that you're friends with on Facebook. No, I'm talking about the 3 or 4 people that you really want to build relationships with. You have to make a decision and say, I am going to be all there for them. And then I'm going to choose to act intentionally, to intervene, to speak out, to act into their lives. Then I'm going to take all the risk. Put myself in a completely vulnerable position where they could reject me if they wanted. Because I want a real relationship with them. 2 Corinthians 1:4 says, He comes alongside of us when we go through hard times. And before you know it, He brings alongside of us someone else who is going through hard times, so that we can be there for that person just as God was there for us. So the challenge this morning, just a little side trip here. We talked about targeting 2 or 3 relationships. We talked about intentionally investing in some people's lives. How's it going? How's it going? Have you done it? Have you done little acts of kindness to complete strangers to practice these principles?